Welcome back to Movies TV Man, and of course you can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Man, and welcome to Tuesday's edition of the Doctor Who Daily, and you're very welcome. Happy birthday, Doctor Who. Happy, is it 58th birthday? We'll go with 58. It's not 57, is it? It's 58. Anyway, if I'm wrong, comment down below and correct me. Yes, the Doctor is 58 years old. It's been 58 years since Doctor Who first launched on British television, with a very short episode, 25 minutes. It was called An Unearthly Child. It is one of my favourite episodes of television ever. It's fantastic, and I'll be re-watching it at some point today. I think it's one of the best launches of a series of all time, and we're talking about 1963 here. It's haunting, it's amazing. He doesn't feel like the Doctor we know and love today, but everyone has to start somewhere, and I think Chibnall's trying to kind of hammer this in, why the Doctor was that way through this Timeless Child arc as well, which is very interesting to me. Yes, so 58 years old, 8 years since we'd had the 50th with Stephen Moffat, David Tennant, Matt Smith, the late great John Hurt. It was an amazing celebration, wasn't it? And in 2 years' time, Russell T Davies will return to Doctor Who to lead these iconic celebrations. But what is it that we love about Doctor Who? What is it? What is it that you love about Doctor Who? Let me know in the comments down below. Don't tell me what you hate about it. I know we're living in an either-or generation now. Forget what you hate about Doctor Who. For one day, let's forget about what we hate. What do you love about Doctor Who? Comment down below. What do I love about Doctor Who? Well, I remember flicking through my television that had 3 or 4 channels back then, and I saw this really tall man with long curly hair, climbing on a kind of windmill thing and falling down, and it was Tom Baker. That's the first time. The first time I ever saw Doctor Who is when Tom Baker's Doctor fell and became Peter Davison. The Watcher goes into him. Sounds a bit dodgy, doesn't it? But I love that concept of the Watcher, by the way. And from that moment on, I was hooked. I loved the Peter Davison era. Now, I said I wasn't going to talk about what I didn't like, but I did skip Doctor Who after Peter Davison for 2 Doctors. I came back for Paul McGann and the revival. I know you're going to say I'm not a real true Doctor Who fan, so my introduction was kind of the last seconds of Tom Baker's Doctor and kind of the inception of Peter Davison's Doctor. Peter Davison's Doctor really made me a Doctor Who fan. Peter Davison really was beyond his time. He was such a young, attractive, vibrant, visceral Doctor. I loved him, I really did. I loved the whole cricket outfit and the holly, was it holly or whatever it was in the pocket. He was great, and he was full of energy. And as much as I loved Peter's Doctor, I thought his companions were amazing. And this won't be a popular thing to say either. I loved Adric. I loved Adric. I thought he was amazing. I thought the actor did a good job. I thought he was well written. He was just this young guy, and I loved him. He wasn't an agreeable character. He was he would question and disagree, and I think that's also a good quality to have in a companion. I think my favourite Peter Davison companion has to be Tegan. It is. I love Tegan. Tegan was this, bolshy, spunky kind of Australian, and basically her whole kind of story with the Doctor was she just wanted to get back home, and the Doctor was never able to do it, or maybe it was his way of keeping her with him. And I think she always seemed to say she wanted to go, but never kind of really went until she actually did go. But I loved Tegan. I thought she was amazing. I had a huge crush on her as well. I mean, the woman was amazingly beautiful, but as a character, she was great as well. And so, yeah, that's my discovery of Doctor Who, the Peter Davison era, the Anthony Ainsley master. Love it. I just love the geezer's laugh. I mean, these days, a cackling villain with not many motivations isn't very fashionable. But I love it because I just love these evil fucking, badasses. I used to love J.R. Ewing in Dallas. Just being kind of doing nasty things because it kind of excited him. I love villains like that. I think that's what we miss today with this whole toxic masculinity thing and how mad the world has gone, how mad the people in entertainment are today, and everything's about, you know, identity politics. But yeah, so I loved that era of Doctor Who. I think it was great. And then, obviously, I mean, before that, I've gone back since and saw the Tom Baker Doctor Who and the Pertwee and as much as we can from the other two Doctors, William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton, and I haven't seen every episode they've done, but I've seen quite a bit, and you know, they're amazing shows. I think Doctor Who started off as a very, very popular show in the kind of early days of William Hartnell's Doctor, and I think Patrick Troughton, I think the show was still kind of popular then. I think Jon Pertwee was a popular Doctor, but I think that's when it started petering off a bit into becoming, rather than a mainstream show, but a cult show. It was cult viewing. And I think when we went down that line, it became a cult show. And I think maybe ratings went a little bit more higher when Tom Baker was involved. But I think even then, it was becoming more of a cult show. So it's interesting that what happened when the original classic series died off and Russell T Davies brought it back, you know, it became a mainstream show again. And that's how it really started. But it's interesting because the Doctor Who, the inception of Doctor Who may have been a mainstream show, but it wasn't made to be a mainstream show. It was very unique, it was very different, it was very creepy. The hero of the main character, you wouldn't even call the Doctor a hero when we first met him in those first few episodes. But he was our principal character. So he wasn't necessarily giving you moral lessons. The moral characters were his companions. Susan, Barbara, Ian, one of my favourite companions. And it's interesting how Chibnall tried to go back to the kind of 4-people TARDIS team, but he could never nail it. He could never make it work. And you know, you've got to give it to the people who were making the original Doctor Who. We had Ian, Barbara and Susan and the Doctor, and it really worked because those characters were actually developed. Chibnall's companions, he didn't bother developing them. He's too lazy. He can't be bothered. He just wants to get to the crux of the matter. That's the problem with Chibnall. He's like a little kid who opens a pair of socks at Christmas, but he wanted a PS5. That's the kind of person Chibnall is. But you know, Verity Lambert really did get into the kind of soul of these characters, I feel. And I mean, especially with Ian and the rivalry he had with the Doctor. Because the thing is with Ian, he sees himself as a really smart guy. So when he walks into the TARDIS, he's denying it because everything he's learned, don't forget he's a teacher. So he believes his religion is the facts that he's known and studied and taught others all his life. So he's seen this ridiculous situation where he goes into a 1960s police box and it's actually bigger. It's a spaceship. It's a time ship. It's a time machine. That's not possible, Ian thinks. I love that. And when they actually arrive on the first planet or wherever they go, you know, Ian no longer can deny it. He's still a little bit in denial. So basically the actor plays this to the limit. But what I like about this is that Ian is in denial. He kind of freaked out because everything kind of, in a way, everything he thought he knew isn't true. But also, the Doctor kidnaps him and Barbara. But if you go before they get to the TARDIS as well, this is why I love The Unearthly Child. It starts very small in a classroom. Them obsessing over Susan being so weird, having all this knowledge, lacking knowledge in other places. It's such a tightly wound, great script. It's one of the best scripts I've ever seen. It's so good. And it's interesting when we go to the, you know, Chibnall's first 3 companions, you know, Graham, Ryan and Yaz. They're not really challenging Doctor. The Doctor puts them down a little bit, you know, kind of, you know, in a way she says, oh, I can't remember what she says. I remember when she first gets on the train and she makes some sly remark to Yaz or something, which is funny. But these companions have no personality. You know, no one's ever challenging the Doctor. It's like, yes, Doc, no, Doc. Like with Graham, Bradley Walsh. It's Yaz kind of thinks the sun shines out of her arse and Ryan's just there for the ride. Although, at least he tried with the dyspraxia thing. That was a good thing. But he didn't follow it through. Dyspraxia should be a thing that bothers Ryan in every single fucking episode. And we should see his character developing from it. Now, you may say that's going to be a bit boring, Mick. But you need it. If you give the geezer dyspraxia, you've got to see the struggles of it all the time. And that's the problem. You can't just fucking ignore it. When he's in those kind of issues, he should have issues that challenge his dyspraxia every single episode. At least one. Right? It's really important. But yeah, so no one's challenging this doctor. Rose challenges the doctor. Martha challenges the doctor. You know, when we first meet Donna, she most certainly challenges the doctor. Amy challenges the doctor. Clara has a really bad relationship with the 12th Doctor at first, Peter Capaldi, and it's actually very interesting. It becomes a toxic relationship. It's fascinating. But these people are just there. And that's the problem. But when you look at something that was written in 1963, but let's be honest, writing was a lot more stronger in the olden days. If you go back and watch something like Gone with the Wind, the writing's much better. Read the writings of what's his name? I forgot his bloody name now. Charles Dickens, that's it. I mean, A Christmas Carol is one of the most genius stories ever. And we're still seeing adaptations of it today. I watched the American Christmas Carol with Henry Winkler. The Fonz, do you remember him? Hey, love it. What a film that is. And not many people have seen that film. You should go check it out. But, so I think writing has gotten worse and worse as entertainment and even, written fiction on the page has gone on through the decades. And I was thinking that to myself. I was really ill last night. And so when I'm ill, I kind of think about writing and stories because that's really all I ever think about apart from Manchester United. But I think the writing in An Unearthly Child, the first ever episode of Doctor Who, is so good. Because what Verity Lambert has done here is, what she's done here, it's not just her, obviously the guy who come up with the idea of Doctor Who, but she put a lot of things in there. And I think what she did here was create a show with a mysterious character that we didn't know his backstory. Yes, he says we're from the fourth dimension or whatever he says. Does he mention the name Gallifrey? I can't remember. But, they don't say much about it, but they make it clear he's from another planet and he's got this ship and it's amazing. But we don't know he can regenerate at this point or anything like that. So they feed you little things, but they don't overfeed you. But you're fascinated already. You're locked in. It's a fascinating situation. We see this 1960s police box in this alleyway. And then the Doctor takes these two teachers with him because he doesn't want them blabbing about the TARDIS. And then they go from one extreme to the other. So it's a really good episode. And then they go from one thing to the other. And I think Ian and Barbara are definitely, and Susan, I thought they were great companions. But what I really like about Doctor Who is the fascinating aspect that he's called the Doctor. And I've said this on this channel before, when they asked Peter Davison once on an episode, what are you a doctor of? And he goes, I'm a doctor of everything. And as a kid, I was like, wow, I love that. That's just such a great premise, isn't it? This guy must be so clever because he's a doctor of everything. He knows so much. And this is an interesting thing. Again, I said let's not talk about things that we hate. But I must ask the question, why isn't Jodie Whittaker's Doctor intelligent? And this is not me putting Jodie down. This is me asking an honest question. Because any bit of information she kind of seems to find out. She seems to just look at the sonic screwdriver, where you'd get past doctors like going like this. Ooh, it's the 30th century, and the companion would be going, well, how do you bloody know that? Well, I just know, and no one's been here for so long. The Doctor has knowledge, right? Now, because the Time Lords have knowledge, and the Doctor's been travelling around for yonks, right? So he's learned, or she or they or them have learned so many things. And so this Doctor doesn't seem to be that intelligent. And that's something that Chibnall continues not to put in there. She just doesn't seem like a very clever person. And that's odd. Maybe she simply isn't the Doctor. And maybe Ruth is the Doctor and she isn't. And maybe they've got her acting like this on purpose. Well, there's only a couple of episodes to go to find out all these secrets. That's if we don't get a Doctor-like episode next week with episode 5 of Doctor Who Flux. Very excited to see how it all plays out. But yeah, always glad to talk about Doctor Who. Every day, of course, we have the Doctor Who Daily. And happy birthday, Doctor Who. Please comment down below. Like, share and subscribe. Please hit the notification bell so you never miss this perfection. I am Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. And I'll be back tomorrow with even more Doctor Who Daily. Until then, goodbye.